The four-way handshake is the closing of the packets, closing of the connection, where we send out FIN packet and acknowledgement packet back and forth between client server. Okay. So I hope this header is now much clear for you guys to understand what this thing means. Okay. So we have covered accept language, we have covered referrer, we have covered the user agent, how, and we have also looked at how these fields can be utilized for any kind of investigation. Okay. And how this field will help you in kind of dealing with any kind of investigation that which deals with website based traffic. Okay. Now the next thing which I want to discuss is the accept encoding. Okay, so this is another field. If you see that this is kind of coming out in the request header. Okay, this is accept encoding, and what this accept encoding is all about, it is actually telling to the server that the server can kind of send me the data in GZIP format. It can send me the data in a compressed format, and I will be able to decompress that easily. Okay, so this is just telling to the server that whatever data you provide me, you can either provide me in a different format, so let's say in a plain text, or you can also provide me in a compressed format. And the compression algorithm that I use, it's GZIP. Okay, GunZIP or GZIP that I utilize. So what will happen is that the server can so here if you see, the server is sending out the data in an uncompressed format. If you see over it is all uncompressed, but the server could have chosen to send this data in a compressed format to save its own bandwidth. So the bandwidth will be low if the data, so let's say the data that it has shared out over here is 1,000 bytes, and if the server would have sent out the data in a compressed format, it would have been just merely, let's say, 10 bytes, and that's where the communication would have been a little bit more faster. Okay, so what we can do is that, let me do one thing, let me send that to repeater. So this is another thing. What you can do is that actually you can kind of, let's say there's a functionality in Bubsuit which is called as repeater. So what you can do is that, let's say what I can do is that I want to repeat this query. I want to repeat this query with a different value. So I can just do a right click over here and say send to repeater. Okay, this is what you can also follow up on this along with me. So what you can do is that you can just send to repeater, and you can send this specific packet to the web server and figure out what the response is. So if I just send this out to the Google server, okay, let's see what the response is. So if you see, I got the response from the web server. It's specifically for just for this data. So so it is telling me the data of the port trigger, the search that I did. It is telling me that what the results are for that port trigger. Now, if I can do what I can do over here, I can change the format. Let's say I say cat is God. Okay, cat is God, for example. And if I can send that out, and now the data that will be received by the Google will be all about cat. Okay, so if I just go over here, let me see if there's any details. So there's a huge kind of code right now. Okay, the actual data might be really less, for example. And so this is what data that came up. Okay, and so it's quite huge. Actually, it's very tough to kind of figure out what the content was, because there are a lot of CSS data inside this. But I can just search for, let's say, cat. Okay, now you see, like, there are hits for cat is gone. Okay, so the thing is that I can easily kind of send out a specific request to the web server just by using this repeater tool. Okay, now this data was sent out to me in a different format, and I just want to see if I can kind of remove this deflate thing, what I'm doing over here, deflate part, and just keep the GZIP, and let's see what the response is right now. So it's again in the actually in the different format itself. It is not entertaining this request that I want the data in GG format. But that's where thing is that I wanted to kind of make you guys understand is that you can also kind of generate a specific request and see what the response will be of the web server just by using this repeater functionality of the Bub Suite. Okay. So in the repeater functionality of the Bub Suite, what you can do is that you can also change out, you can also add certain fields. So I can also do, I can also add certain other field like user agent. I can kind of, what I can do is I can change this out. I can say it's something like this, some random ID, and I can kind of, let's say I can accept response from the web server. Okay. So this is what the repeater is looking like. You can kind of raise a specific request and maybe change the value and get a response based on the value that you want. Okay. And so I hope this was easy to follow upon what this repeater is all about. Okay. So my thing is that what we have done is that we have looked at the accept language, we have looked at the accept encoding header, we have looked at the connection thing, and we have looked at the cookies, the host header, and the user agent header. Okay. Now let me see if there's any other thing that I want to discuss in the header part. Okay. So now let me just quickly go to my snapshot and let me see if I have any other things to discuss. Okay. So this is to okay. Now what we will do is that now we have seen few of the important request header that over here. Now we will look at what are the few of the important response header, like the response that came out from the let's say server. What are the few of the important headers that we should kind of look at whenever we are doing any kind of analysis? And one of the thing, guys, is that the response header in most of the cases will be pretty useful, because let's say the malware was, let's say this malware, the one that I was focusing over here, let's say this was the malware which was trying to kind of communicate to autodiscover.tobunny.com, and it was sending this data to the server. Okay. Now in the meantime, the proxy log will also have the response header that was received by the server, and in that case it will be really useful to kind of understand what was the data that was sent out by the via the server. Okay. So one of the field over here. So what we will do is that before kind of proceeding to the response header, I will take a 2 minutes break. I'll just quickly grab some water. But before going to the break, I wanted to know, guys, if you have any concern or any question for the things that we have discussed till now, so that I can reevaluate and kind of maybe change upon the delivery method of making you guys, of explaining you guys what all these terms are. So are there any questions or any concern before I move on to the, yeah, go on.
So, like this accept encoding that you said last, that is like we'll be giving a plain text or a compression format so that it will give some detailed information in a descriptive manner. Is that correct, sir?
No,
because I understand in that way.
No, so there is no what you say, there is no concern about decryption over here. Okay. So the so compression is something you just compress it, and anyone who has a compression algorithm, they can kind of decompress that. Okay. So you I remember like you guys might be already familiar with zip format or tar.gdat format, where we compress a file, we make the size a little bit lower. So let's say you have a video file of 1000 MB, you compress it out, it might turn out to be 40 MB, for example, and you then share that file that with your friends, and those friends can kind of just decompress that and kind of what to say, they can decompress that and kind of get the actual file. Okay. So that compression doesn't require any kind of key to enter. So there's no encryption in place. Whenever there's an encryption in place, you always need to enter the key. Okay. So there's no encryption. So that's where compression is different from like decryption or encryption. In compression, the term that we use is compression and decompression. We don't use the term decryption. We use the term decompression. So where we decompress the thing and we